The John Chancellor Award is such an honor principally because it isn't for any single piece of work. It's for reporting over the long haul. It's also an honor to receive an award given to people who quietly represent journalism's higher ideals. My neighbors may not know who Jerry Mitchell is, or Ofra Bickel, or Claude Sitton, but I know their work. I've admired it from afar. John Chancellor didn't hug to the sidelines. He wasn't content merely to describe some debate. He informed it. He also had a healthy skepticism for the easy take. When Jerry Ford fell on that airplane gangway, everyone had great fun with what a klutz he was. But John Chancellor got the videotape, watched in slow motion, and saw how Ford, quick as can be, had managed to catch his fall without hurting himself or his wife. He saw an athlete. John Chancellor was willing to slow it down, study, and reach his own conclusion. That's an approach worth emulating. I discovered the possibilities of public records while working at a small newspaper in Twin Falls, Idaho. A couple of casino security guards were accused of roughing up people in a nearby town called Jackpot, Nevada. I found a divorce file for one guard. His nickname was Smokey, and in it his ex-wife accused him of tying her to a chair, taking a book of matches, and flicking lit matches at her, one after another. I didn't include her allegations, mainly because she remarried Smokey, but I marveled that such details could be found in the courthouse. Later, I did a story on these two veterinarians locked in a feud. One veterinarian had his equipment stolen. The other had sugar put in his gas tank. One veterinarian's dog was shot. The other's horse was poisoned. No charges had been filed, but each veterinarian had voiced suspicion of the other. The sheriff's office kept all these reports side by side as companion files. Stitched together, they told quite a story. One veterinarian wasn't real thrilled with what he wrote. He put up a sign asking the newspaper to leave town, to leave the country actually. A postal worker in Escondido, California, shot his wife, went to work, shot up the workplace, then killed himself. The newspaper I was working for, the Times-Advocate, had only 12 reporters at the time. But the editor, Rich Peterson, assigned 3 of us, a quarter of the staff, to work on a series on the Postal Service. We got access to all kinds of records, including union grievances. We found postal workers who were disciplined for getting stung by a bee or for tripping over a sprinkler. One woman was suspended 2 weeks for having an ectopic pregnancy. She was disciplined because the embryo lodged in her fallopian tubes. For me, that series illustrated 2 things. Small papers can do big stories, and beware the conventional wisdom. People had this image of postal workers leisurely strolling from one mailbox to the next. The opposite was true. Their jobs were so stressful, the culture so Orwellian, that it helped explain these outbreaks of violence. In Newport News, Virginia, a rookie police officer, Steve Rutherford, was shot and killed during a botched sting operation. He was pretending to be a pizza delivery man, bait to be robbed. The police chief called the sting operation textbook, but that wasn't true. We got a hold of a hearing transcript the public wasn't supposed to see, which spelled out how slapdash this operation was. Another reporter, Bob Evans, and I wrote up how Rutherford had been sent out with a gun on his hip and no money to make change. There wasn't even a pizza in the pizza box. Making him for a police officer took no great leap. After we published, the city initiated an investigation, and in the end, the police chief was fired and 9 other officers were disciplined. But if it wasn't for that transcript, the truth may never have come out. I have a high threshold for tedium. A lot of the work I do is frankly boring, but the results can be dramatic. In Chicago, I did a number of investigative projects with Steve Mills or Maury Posley, or with both of them. Steve and I spent 8 months on a series on the death penalty in Illinois, and I can't tell you how many weeks went into generating just one number, 33, that in 33 cases, a person sentenced to death had been represented at trial by an attorney who's been disbarred or suspended. But when Governor Ryan declared a moratorium on executions, he cited that number along with others we had produced. Numbers hold power. It's easy to dismiss an anecdote. it's harder to dismiss a pattern. Nationally, investigative reporting has taken a hit as staffs shrink and news holes get smaller. But the Seattle Times is still committed to doing this kind of work. With other reporters, I've written about illegally sealed court records, the community turning a blind eye to a football team's off-field troubles, about the unchecked rise of the MRSA pathogen. I still get to do what I love. We did a story on inept public defense attorneys in Grant County, which is in central Washington. I spent a day going through a single file, a massive file, and late that afternoon, I found one document that told the story. On some fill-in-the-blank form for continuances, the public defender had requested D&A testing. Not DNA, D&A. That day's work made for only one short paragraph, but it was a really good paragraph. Those stories led to a series of reforms in Grant County. Afterward, some attorneys, grateful, sent me a t-shirt that looked all touristy with fancy script and an exclamation point. It said, "Grant County, now with Sixth Amendment rights." I love that t-shirt. It's one of the few things I've ever had framed. My advice for future journalists? Learn a foreign language. Develop multimedia skills. Learn computer-assisted reporting. Develop expertise in sub-subject that a lot of people find intimidating, whether it's economics, microbiology, whatever the case might be. Read The Elements of Journalism by Bill Kovach and Tom Rosenstiel. Don't be misled by what objectivity is or what it's supposed to be. When you're working on a story, you're allowed to care. In fact, you should care. If you don't care, why should your readers?